Good evening. Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, September 6th. We're here at the I'd like to call call this meeting to order. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. It's 7:45. I'd ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What? I know. I need to slow down. Let me first apologize to the members of the audience. We had an executive session, and it went over. Certainly not our intent, but we were wrapping up some pretty serious conversations, so I apologize for the delay in starting this meeting. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you call the roll.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Conquest.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Reuter. Here. Sabatino.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky. Here. York.
Here.
Toledo. Here. 14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. On to agenda item 3, which is a public hearing. It's a public hearing for Special Service Area 16, which is the Virginia Lane Townhomes. Those are the townhomes up at the northeast side of Elmhurst, on the east side of York, just before Grand. Yes? Okay, I have a script here that's been prepared for our legal folks, so that we are in accordance with the law. Special Service Area number 16, Virginia Lane Townhomes, public hearing. There is a public hearing scheduled for this evening. I hereby call the public hearing regarding Special Service Area number 16 to order. Roll call, Clerk Spencer.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Conquest.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Reuter. Here. Sabatino.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky. Here. York.
Here.
Toledo. Here. 14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. The purpose of this public hearing is to take public comment concerning the proposed establishment of a special service area for the Virginia Lane Townhomes. The special service area is being established for the purpose of providing special city services to the area, specifically the repair, maintenance, and upkeep of property and the exterior of multi-family structures in the proposed special service area, the provision of parking in and for said area, the enforcement of traffic and other laws and ordinances on private property, more extensive beautification and parkway maintenance other than is provided to other portions of the city, and other related services in connection with the improvement, repair, and maintenance of housing stock, and appurtenances thereto, you can tell a lawyer wrote this, appurtenances thereto which are located within the proposed special service area. This proposed special service area will replace the current special service area, which is set to expire.
I'm sorry.
That's
Mayor.
okay. I have to ask you a question, so I want to make sure you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready now.
Clerk Spencer, have you received any written comments concerning this matter?
No, Mayor, I have not.
Okay. Does city staff have any comments? Look at you, Jim. Okay. Would any members of the public like to make any comments for the record? Now, before I formally ask that, Patty, did we put out a signage sheet for this?
Mayor, we did.
Okay. All right. Patty, I'm sorry, Clerk Spencer, did any member of the public sign up for public comment?
Yes.
Okay, so before I ask you for a name, for the public comment portion of this public hearing, when your name is identified, please make your way over to this microphone over here, and you can comment on this public hearing and in any manner you so choose. Clerk Spencer, you say we have some folks signed up for it. Please read the first name.
I believe it's Ann Cerrone. I'm sorry. Okay.
So,
Oh, Donna. Okay. Anna? Donna, you were close. Oh,
that's,
whatever.
okay, so I forgot to say, when you get to the microphone, no, please make your way to the microphone. Please state your name for the record so that we have it on record.
Okay. It's Donna Carone, and it's C-A-R-O-N-E.
Okay?
And I guess full disclosure, I was the first treasurer for the Townhouse Association, and I was also one of a handful of people that worked with the city to form the association. So, having said that, I have some records that probably other people don't. I guess I have 3 questions. I don't know if I ask a question, you answer, if I just keep talking with the question.
This is just a public forum, so it's not a Q&A. So
Okay.
you can state any concerns or
Okay.
questions you have, but it's
Okay,
just your
understood.
time to speak.
Okay. Well, my first question is, and you kind of alluded to it in your presentation, is the area was formed already as a special services area number 3. So my concern or question is, what is the difference? Because the notice that we received said that the City Council of Elmhurst is to consider forming a special services area. Well, it's already there and has been in existence since the Articles of Incorporation were filed and approved in April of 1997. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is and what that means for us. The way it was established initially is the board does not tell you everybody is going to have a blue door. And I guess that is my concern, is that that does not happen with whatever changes is going to take place. I mean, I've already done landscaping myself and spent thousands of dollars to have it done. I've put in new doors and spent thousands of dollars. So I have been keeping up my property. So my concern is that somebody on the board is not going to say, we're going to go with their taste and what they want to do to the complex. Common areas, yes, the roof, obviously it's all connected. That all has to be done together. The lawn care, the snow removal, the parking lots, all these things are common areas. But when it comes to your private property, my door, my windows, my taste, that is my main concern. So I'm not quite sure what is going to change, or if anything, with that. The other thing is also how it was determined of the dollar amount. The memo that we got, or the notice, I should say, gave a dollar amount, and I'm wondering where they came up with that amount. And more specifically, how they're going to about determining how that money is going to be used. Another concern of mine, and this has been an ongoing problem, is, not to criticize, but I just have to state a fact, is when the board sends out notices for the meetings, which is fine, they give us the agenda, but there is never, ever any follow-up. We have no clue as to what transpired at any meetings. We do not get financial statements. I have suggested kind of off and on over the years since I resigned my position as treasurer many years ago, to just have a memo after each meeting with bullet points stating what transpired on each of the agenda topics, or a couple of sentences. Not a full-blown, meeting minutes, but just something to keep the residents informed. I feel that we're being penalized because we don't show up for meetings. Obviously, they can't happen. So I think much better communication is key, and especially now since the city wants to tax us even more, I want to know where that money is going. I want to know what's happening with it. And another suggestion I had was also to have a monthly financial statement. Just a plain, simple Excel spreadsheet, beginning balance, what the expenses were in detail, ending balance. Very simple, that could be taken off of the monthly checking account. Again, we have no idea what's been collected in total, what the expenses have been, what the balance is. And I think that's very key, especially since you're asking for more money from us, even though it may be put to very good use, I still want to know what you're doing with my money. And then also, I'm just wondering how this changes, or if it does change, how the board is run. Initially, again, I'm going back to when I was treasurer and we started this, there were supposed to be, and there have not been, annual elections for the board to change. And again, the board's feedback was, well, nobody cares, nobody wants to bother. Well, that doesn't matter, because in the articles and in the bylaws, these elections were supposed to take place. You're supposed to give a notice and say if you want to vote for somebody, or I believe a write-in, I think. My memory's kind of fuzzy, but that has not been done either. So I think a key to all this is communicating to the residents what is transpired, because there is no communication whatsoever other than an agenda meeting notice. Thank you.
Carlos A. Rivera.
Yes, I am.
Okay, you want to come to the microphone?
Yes, my name is Carlos A. Rivera, and I live in the 937 North York Road. And I know a question.
This is, I'm sorry, this is a public forum, so you can say anything you want.
Okay, I know nothing.
Okay.
That's good. Claude Pagash, did you wish to speak, or did you sign the wrong?
They're getting taken into cleaners, I have nothing to say.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes public forum.
Okay, as it relates to public forum for this special service,
I had a question, where is that signage?
It
But-
was
but-
in the back.
I'm just, yeah, so usually, I was just going to, let me finish. That concludes the folks who have signed in for this portion of the public hearing, but if you did not have an opportunity to sign in, if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to address the council on this specific issue, and the reason why I say this specific issue is that we have a public forum for general council statements further, later on in the agenda. So, to finish that thought, if there's anybody else who wishes to speak with regard to this public hearing as it relates to this SSA for the Virginia Lane Townhomes, and did not have an opportunity to sign up, please raise your hand so that I know if you want to speak, and we'll get you in an orderly fashion over to the microphone. So I see one person. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak during this public hearing forum? Sir, the gentleman in the white shirt, if you want to head to the microphone.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Matthew Mathai. I own the property 948 Virginia Lane. What my concern was, the lady, I forgot her name, she fully explained it. I fully support that because we don't have any explanation of such a very large, formal, legal meeting. We don't have a clue what is going to happen. So I'm a bit surprised now. And again, I fully support what she has told, that we already have a special area committee or whatever. Now, what is that is going to form newly, and what are the advantages to the property owners? I want to know. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else who wishes to address the council? Seeing none, that's going to conclude our public comment portion. Are there any aldermen that wish to comment at this point? Alderman Bram.
Yes, thank you. And I'll ask for clarification, either from the city attorney or someone from city staff. There was questions in regards to this SSA, and I wanted to touch on, at least from my understanding, we received a request from the board in regards to the dollar amount that they would like to be self-imposed tax. The SSA is self-imposed in this case. So I believe that dollar amount was received from the board per request for the city to do this. I think it's $4, what was it? $4 for every 100 assessed. So it is not something that the city decided, my understanding. It is something that is, we worked with the board to come up with the dollar amount. How the money is used, I think some of the other questions that were being asked was more of, and this might get into a legal area that I have no expertise in to speak to, but I think that's more of a board versus SSA, and those are two different entities. SSA is just doing the dollars and cents to be utilized by the, what I would call a pseudo townhome association, since there's not a legal one in place. And the board makes some of these decisions on, you know, will all doors look the same, or will the common areas be changed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think some of those questions posed tonight should be going back to the board. I don't know if the city has any legal stance on, you know, are some of these other things meeting minutes or anything along those lines distributed. Again, the city's aspect of this, since it's not an official townhome association, the city's aspect is the SSA and the dollars and cents, not the other legalities of what can and cannot be done by this board.
Good points of clarification, Alderman Bram. I know that the city manager was just talking to our finance director, Mr. Trezine, to get some of those dollar questions. The one thing, I know I read it legally, but if I didn't make it clear, let me put it in layman's terms, is that this SSA is expiring. So it's going away. It's not, this isn't in addition to another one. The one that exists had a 10 or 20-year expiration. 10-year expiration. So, and as Alderman Bram pointed out, there is no formal homeowner assessment up there with I don't even know if I call it an association. So this is a replacement of one. Did this go through your committee, Alderman York? Oh, great. Okay, so I'll stop talking, but I will say that this is replacing one that's expiring. So there's funds that are currently used to cut the grass and do whatever and maintain, and this is replacing that. So at the very least, that needs to happen. But I'm going to turn it over to Alderman York for a more detailed explanation.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So some good questions. The committee report that goes through the mechanics of what's occurring here tonight is on board docs for everybody to take a look at. So in a nutshell, the mayor was correct. The new SSA is being formed to replace an SSA that was expiring. It actually was a 13-year term. The maximum tax rate was $4 per 100 EAV of the old one, and that's what the new one is going to be. So other than the fact that EAVs increase, that would be the only way that the taxes could increase. But in a nutshell, I know that Phil Tartaglia, I believe Phil Tartaglia is the city liaison with the board at Virginia Lane. And so he's the guy who interacts with the board there. And I and a couple of my other committee members here have already made notes that we're going to get this addressed in an upcoming committee meeting to find out, you know, just so we have an idea of what the formal process is. We did review this, but not probably in the level of detail that we needed to, as far as to be able to answer specifically how many meetings do they have and do they print financial statements and all those types of things. So we will get this back into committee and take a look at those things. But as far as the tax rate goes, there's no change in the tax rate. This is simply an expiring SSA going away and a new almost identical one being put in its place for another 10 years.
Okay. Good comments. Any other aldermanic comments at this point? Alderman Toludo.
Thank you. I would just encourage, since the finance chairperson, Alderman York, just said that we're going to be taking a look at this in committee, all of you folks who live in Virginia townhomes who are affected by this, I encourage you to come to the committee meeting, participate in the conversation. We can make sure that all of your questions are addressed at the committee meeting when that comes up, and you can find out when that's on the agenda by taking a look at board docs at the city website. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Honquist. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The hearing is closed. Thank you, everybody. As the committee member stated, there will be follow-up on some of those questions at committee. Looking forward to getting those answers. All right. On to agenda item 4, receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written communications they wish to submit to Clerk Spencer? If so, please raise your hand, identify yourself. If you have anything written you want to submit. You have something written? No? Not right now, okay. If you want to continue speaking, we actually have, the next part of our meeting is public forum, so if you want to add additional comment, you'll have an opportunity. So, no written communications from the public. Agenda item 5 is public forum. This is an opportunity at this time for anybody in the audience to address the city council, and we ask that you address your comments toward us, to address the city council on any item you so choose. Once you're identified, we ask that you make your way to the microphone, For public forum in our city council meetings, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for the work that we have to do here this evening and out of respect for other people that may want to talk. If you go over your 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up. At this time, Clerk Spencer, is there anybody who has signed up for public forum? And before I ask you to answer that question, there will also be an opportunity for people to speak if you do not have an opportunity to sign up. But Clerk Spencer, anybody who signed up at this point?
Yes, George J. Geis.
Good evening. My name is George Geis. Thank you for having the opportunity to address a matter of grave concern regarding the safety of the citizens of Elmhurst. I'm a physician who's lived in Elmhurst over 30 years. Most of that time, I was on the medical staff at Elmhurst Hospital. I practiced in the ER and various outpatient clinics associated with the hospital. During much of that time, I was the chair of the Emergency Management Committee, as well as the medical director of pre-hospital care, which was essentially a liaison position between the hospital and the paramedics who staffed the ambulances in Elmhurst, as well as surrounding communities. Thus, I have direct experience supervising and working with many of our firefighters and paramedics as they render care to their patients, both in the ER as well as on the street. I'm proud to have worked with this dedicated and conscientious group of professionals. I'm also glad to live in Elmhurst, where these well-trained, experienced crews are ready to assist myself and my family should the need arise, as indeed it has. However, several recent events in Elmhurst, with which I'm sure you're all familiar, have revealed a gap in this otherwise exemplary system. To be specific, when, for whatever reason, fire department vehicles are first on the scene, any firefighters on those vehicles, who may also be trained as paramedics, are prevented for contractual reasons from rendering advanced life support to the patient in distress. Advanced life support might take the form of administering intravenous medications or instituting other potentially life-saving measures. It is true, of course, that Elmhurst has mutual aid agreements with a number of surrounding communities, such that ambulances are made available to Elmhurst when both of our own ambulances are busy. Unfortunately, a mutual aid response may not be rapid enough to prevent tragedy. It should also be noted that Elmhurst is the only community in this area which does not have advanced life support staffed and equipped fire trucks. Keeping the skills and expertise of our firefighters who are trained as paramedics from providing life-saving services to the citizens of Elmhurst makes no medical sense whatsoever. I can only presume that this is a cost-cutting measure. If so, I think it is dangerous and short-sighted, especially when these firefighter paramedics are willing and eager to apply their hard-won skills in the service of the citizens of Elmhurst. I think we in Elmhurst deserve better. We should have ALS staffed and equipped fire trucks similar to all the surrounding communities. Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, you should not keep available life-saving services from the citizens of Elmhurst. Thank you.
Donna Geis, did you want to speak, Donna?
I'm sorry?
Donna, your wife.
Thank you. As my husband was preparing this tonight,
Could you please
I felt-
state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. Donna Geis, 264 Elm Park.
Thank you.
As my husband was preparing his notes for tonight, I felt it was my responsibility to come up and share some of my thoughts. I'm a 30-year resident. My adult children have homes in this town, and I have grandchildren who are being raised in this town. As our elected mayor and city council, I feel strongly that you should be doing everything possible to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the Elmhurst residents. As the wife of an emergency room doctor, I realize that sometimes you only have one chance to save somebody's life, and that is true for paramedics and for firefighters. On November 22nd of 2014, that one chance hit our family. My husband was driving to work at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday and was at the intersection of Midwest Road and Butterfield when a person drove through that red light at a very high rate of speed and hit the driver's side of his car. His car was tossed across the intersection onto about 3 or 4 feet of rocks. He was unable to get out of that vehicle, and the fire truck or fire department was called, 911 was called at that time, and an ALS-capable fire truck was brought to the scene. The jaws of life had to be used to get him out of that vehicle. He was put on oxygen. He spent 10 days in an ICU and 2 months in a rehabilitation hospital. I'm glad he was here tonight to be able to talk to this issue. I didn't know then, but I know now, today, that this is an accident that if it occurred in Elmhurst may not have had the same result. I would like to see the city of Elmhurst prioritize the safety of its residents and visitors and step in line with all the surrounding communities. Please make our fire trucks ALS compatible and allow the trained paramedics on those trucks to perform life-saving measures if they are first on the scene. Thank you.
Kathleen Sullivan?
Kathleen Sullivan, you have a number of projects in front of you tonight that will help address the storm mitigation issues in Elmhurst, and I hope that you support all of them. Additionally, you'll be talking about the North York plan, and there's just one thing that I really had an issue with, is there's a set of trees that's proposed to go across the street from the Marianos in the median, and it's expected to go right where they're going to move the driveway, so it's across from Marianos, from the series, or the little strip mall that's across from it. It has 4 restaurants, including Christopher's. And that set of trees seems that it would block your vision if you're trying to get out of there. And it was noted in the comments. Actually, I continued reading after I was seeing it. It was noted in one of the comments by one of the business owners there, but I noticed it myself, and I really think that that would be an accident waiting to happen, and I don't think you should put the trees there. So I really think you need to consider that. Also, I made a comment, which I found there, which was also anything you could do to add stormwater mitigating things to that project would be great. Thank you.
That concludes public forum.
Okay, that concludes public forum for those who signed in. Is there anybody in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet but wishes to address the council at this time? If so, please raise your hand. I see one. Is there anyone else? Okay, Mr. Pagash?
Claude Pagage, 566 Fred's Gladys. Before I start, I wish to apologize to the city clerk. She asked a simple question, and on reflection, my retort was unacceptable. So I apologize to you. It was a simple question. I see on our agenda here that the city's in the buying property again. Fascinating. City buys property, then can't find anybody to buy it off them. Not at the price they paid. It's endless. Or property has no value. It's given away. Time and time again. So I would assume that, number one, there seems to be a little discussion about this property. And let's get out of the real estate business. You guys never make out, and the public pays dearly for your mistakes. And again, we're back down to this fifth TIF. I made commentaries last week. I see no rational reason for the Park District to be in the TIF, disregarding the alderman's mention of the fact that they would gain financially. Yes, they will, immensely financially. Not only will they get the taxes out of there, but then they can go into the pile of money that's left over that's for development and take their hunk out of it. His belief that a pea of grass will not be touched. I'll have little faith in the Park District. They chopped down a whole wooded area and gave me 2 plastic football fields that hardly anybody uses. And I'm sure they're going to come back and say they got to replace those plastic fields, and that'll cost a few more million. Putting the north side of Lake Street into the TIF, why? There's already a TIF there. What is gained by the residents? In 23 years, and they can put a TIF on the west side of it, included. By the time it's done, it'll be 100 years past, and they'll still be in a TIF. So both do not belong in TIF 5. The council will only, after something does happen at Barron's Park, will say, we had nothing to do with it. Sure you didn't. No, you
Mr.
didn't have
Prakash, I'd ask
anything
you to wrap
do with
up
it.
your comments, please.
And as far as that report about how property values will increase and everything else, I walked through the downtown area. Other than washing the walls, putting in new windows, nothing's really changed except the loss of a lot of businesses and a parking garage that the city should have never owned.
Okay, anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing none, that concludes our public forum. On to announcements. Any announcements from the dais? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, I have a couple. We have a notice or a flyer on the dais here from the Elmhurst, sorry, I'm looking for that, bear with me. The Evangelical Catholic Church, who are establishing a new presence in town at the Masonic Lodge on North Avenue. They are having a rededication mass on Sunday, September 11th at 1 o'clock. And this mass is intended to celebrate the intentions of our firefighters, police, and veterans. So again, that's Sunday, September 11th at 1 o'clock. This particular church is moving from Chicago to be closer to its parishioners that are mostly out in this area. The other announcement I have is 2 Saturdays ago, the Churchville Charge took place. I want to thank the business owners that were involved, the city that provided support for that. It's a great event. 50-plus teams were involved, over 200 people, plus countless sponsors, and they were able to raise over $12,000 for the Churchville PTA, which I'm sure will be put to good use there at that middle school. Thank you.
Okay, any other announcements from the dais? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Agenda item 7. At this time, are there any issues or items on the consent agenda any alderman wishes to have removed, to provide comment, provide further comment, or vote no? Any items removed from the consent agenda? Alderman Dunn.
7.7 and 7.8.
7.7. and 7.8. Any other items removed? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 7.7 and 7.8. Motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Braham, second by Alderman Deuter. Clerk Spencer.
Healy.
Aye.
Excuse me. Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Arnquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner. Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Chaluto.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Consent agenda is approved minus items 7.7 and 7.8. On to agenda item 7.7. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the low bid from John Burns Construction Company for the Public Works Facility salt storage not to exceed $1,305,187.91 be accepted, and the city attorney be authorized to prepare a resolution approving a contract with John Burns Construction Company, signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Marty Deuter, Vice Chairman, Michael Braham, unsigned, and unsigned by Patrick Wagner.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy, your report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item we've had before us for many years on the capital budget, and this was the time that we decided to put this in place. And so basically, we have a 1,600 ton salt storage unit today. The idea is to go to a unit that is much larger, 5,000 tons, that would allow us to store the entire quantity that we would typically need in a season. We've had numerous times in the past where we've had to go out and buy salt on the public market during the winter time, and that's at a significantly higher cost than what it would be if we can make that purchase earlier in the year. The other piece to this is, from an environmental standpoint, the EPA is looking at these types of practices in terms of storing salt outside, and is saying that you need to do something about protecting the waterway. And given the fact that our salt storage is so close to Salt Creek, they're ultimately going to be coming to municipalities. And in the past, as we have interacted with the EPA, and this subject has come up, we have, as a city, have gone back to them and said, yes, our plan is ultimately to have a larger salt dome to the one we're describing here in the report, so that by the installation of this 5,000 ton storage unit, we will eliminate the EPA concern of saltwater runoff into the waterway of Salt Creek.
Okay. Alderman Dunn, you pulled this. Do you have any questions or comment?
Yeah, just, I've spoken with a few people on the committee about this particular project, and I know it's in the budget, and it appears to be funded out of a couple different accounts, and one being the Park District is also on the line for, I think, $300,000 according to the report. And I understand the EPA issues and keeping the salt out of the open air. I just have some reservations about building something so large, holding a year's worth of salt, when I know our contract, we can buy a range that varies between 20% below our normal yearly amount to 20% above, and we can take multiple deliveries of that. We don't have to get it all at one time. So just logistically, I don't know that we need one that big, and you know, I'm thinking certainly you don't want to build the church to accommodate Christmas and Easter Mass. So I'm just a little uncertain as to why we would need something that big, and maybe the committee can shine a little more light on that. So I'm just struggling with that fact.
Alderman Kennedy, you want to tell us why we're building a church for Christmas?
Actually, we're building a salt dome, Mr. Mayor, and that subject did come up during our meetings, and it was the staff's recommendation that a 5,000-ton storage shed would be the best service for our application.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not on Public Works anymore, but I do recall the conversation from a couple years previous. The scenario that Alderman Dunn explains is correct. If you've got there's a flex there, and that works well when staff estimates correctly and estimates our usage correctly. Now, as we know, over the last 3 years, we've had 2 winters where snowfall exceeded or icing events exceeded what we thought, and we've had to go to the open market to buy salt. When you do that, you pay 1.5, 2 times, sometimes 3 times the going rate of what the contract called for. This bigger shed allows us to buy a little more aggressively, knowing that if we have stuff left over at the end of the year, we can hold it till the next year and not have to hit the open market and pay exorbitant rates for salt. So I support it. I think it's long overdue. And as we know, the winters particularly have been getting more aggressive, not less aggressive. I know that's probably a cyclical thing, but personally, I'd rather see us have more salt than less during the winter.
Okay. Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to add to the commentary is there's been a couple times in the previous years where although we have a contract and it says we can get salt deliveries throughout the season, we've been unable to get salt due to the logistics of the weather and the inability for those stores of salt to be offloaded on the truck and for them to get them to us here in Elmhurst to apply to the streets. And I know of at least twice where we actually had to choke down the amount of salt we were putting on city streets so that we could parse it out and make sure that we got through that time where we didn't have a sufficient supply in hopes of getting new deliveries to us. So those reasons and the ones we discussed earlier is why the committee felt strongly of going forward with this.
Okay. Any additional comments? Alderman Dunn.
Just one more question. As far as other taxing bodies keeping salt there, I assume the Park District is, since they are paying for some of this, and are others contemplating that as well?
Alderman Kennedy, we sharing this with folks?
Just with the Park District.
Okay. We should work out a lease.
Perhaps.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, will Clerk Spencer ask that you call the roll.
Ely.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 7.7 is approved. On to agenda item 7.8. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the total unit price bid from Elanar Construction Company in the amount of $2,394,077.50 be accepted, and the city attorney be authorized to prepare the appropriate documentation for council approval. Furthermore, in the interest of stating the project as soon as, starting the project as soon as possible, the committee recommends that the city council suspend with the rules, allow approval of said documents at the same meeting. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Marty Deuter, Vice Chairman, Michael J. Bram, unsigned, and Patrick Wagner.
I'm signed.
Unsigned?
Oh, you signed?
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I get the wrong report?
No, he signed. Alderman Bram signed.
Alderman Bram signed it, Alderman Wagner did not. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah, kinda. All right, Michael Bram, unsigned Patrick Wagner.
Okay.
Unsigned, right. I said it.
To put this before council, I will ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will defer to Alderman Dunn, who pulled the
Alderman
report.
Dunn, you pulled this. You have a question or comment?
Just a comment on this particular project. It looks like we had budget at 1.9 million for the project. It came in a little higher, 2.3, 2.4 million, to benefit 11 homes. It appears that we're increasing the detention capability from 5 acre-feet to 13 acre-feet. Just my concern is the price tag of the project for the amount of homes that it benefits. At that expenditure, we're looking at $220,000 a home, which for me, and it was the same with the Gold Meadows project, is pretty steep per home. So I do have my concerns about the cost, not the benefit. Of course, the benefit's great. So I won't be supporting this particular report tonight.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Ely.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Joyder.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
No.
Bram.
Aye.
Kalinsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays, 0 absent.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 7.8 is approved. On to committee reports. Agenda item 8.1. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the real estate purchase contract for the property at 128-134 North York Street be approved and that the city attorney be authorized to prepare the necessary documents for this easement vacation, and that the appropriate city officials be authorized to sign said documents. Signed, Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Marty Deuter, Vice Chairman. Unsigned, Michael Bram and Patrick Wagner.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve this report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In summary, basically, this is the widening of the Schiller Walkway. This allows for that walkway to be increased in its width by 4 feet. Some of the benefits we get from it is the addition of an 8-inch water main. Right now, for the area that we call the donut hole behind the structures on Addison Street, York, and First Street, that area right now, if there were to be an issue with for fire, we'd be pulling hoses, the fire department would be pulling hoses to that area. And by granting, having this wider, 4 foot wide, it gives us the ability to put the water main in to have a hydrant in the back of that area. One of the items in the report talks about the encroachment of the foundation footings into this 4 feet. That's occurring below grade, so that won't change at all the ultimate width of the walkway. So just to clarify that point. The price was negotiated with the property owner, 4 feet wide, 175 feet long, for $240,000. That was done looking at the cost of the land and also the damage to the remainder, from which that was what the owner of the property calculated and reviewed with city staff and came to agreement upon, because they're making their structure somewhat smaller to accommodate our desire for a wider walkway, and that was ultimately what that number came down to be as the negotiated quantity that was agreed to by city staff and then brought forward to us. So unless someone has any further comments, I'll hold at this point.
Okay. Any other comments as it relates to this report, purchase of this property? Seeing none, Alderman Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the increasing in the size of the walkway by purchasing, and I emphasize that, the city purchasing from a willing seller part of their current property, 4 feet by 175 feet. That's a major point in this discussion, because that point right there, there is no reason it wouldn't be applicable to do damage to the remainder. Damage to the remainder is only applicable when it's eminent domain or there's a partial taking of property. It is not applicable when there's a willing seller of the property. Even if it was applicable in this case, and my understanding is that it is not, to utilize a dollar amount per square foot that is years, if not decades old, is irrelevant. It is not appropriate to use a dollar amount that the city utilized 10 years ago. It's a different market, and it doesn't apply today. But my understanding, as I have consulted and read on damage to the remainder, it's not applicable. We're buying off of a willing seller. So that shouldn't be in this equation of this calculated dollar amount for a 4 foot by 175 foot wide property. The other piece of this evaluation, or this dollar amount that we're proposing to buy the 700 square feet, is way above and beyond on what the seller purchased, or my understanding, I should state, the seller purchased this property I believe a few months earlier. The city's made statements that they negotiated the property price to $240,000. I believe that negotiation came down less than 10% from the original request. At this price, that comes to $342.86 a square foot. Wow, I would love to sell my property for that price. According to the York Township assessor, the purchase price for the total property, including a building, was $1.6 million. That's with the structure. That square footage of that property, including the structure, was 14,650 square feet, which the current seller, the previous buyer, paid $109.22 for the property. And we're here today making a request to buy it for over 3.5 times over 3 times that the seller purchased it with a building on it. If you look at the assessor's page, which I included as part of my minority report, the assessed land value is at $119,960, which would be $8.19 per square foot. But the current majority report is recommending for the city taxpayers to pay $342.86 a square foot for just this land. Whatever numbers you use, the $8.19 per square foot or the $109.22 per square foot, it is grossly over the amount that the current seller paid for the property months before. I don't see why the taxpayers need to foot a bill that is grossly over the amount that was originally paid for. I also want to touch on the aspects of the easements. As Alderman Kennedy's made statements, the underground easement wouldn't impact our walkway. That's an accurate statement. And it goes, I believe, 1/2 foot into the 4-foot easement. There's a secondary easement, which is a window easement, and that easement is 2 feet out of the 4 feet. So the current property owner could not build up to the property line without requesting the city for an easement. If they use their whole current and we don't purchase this, they would have to have an easement from the city of Elmhurst. In this case, we're saying we'll pay over 3 times the amount of the value that you did, and then give you an easement right back for 2 out of the 4 feet that we're purchasing. I don't see on how this is fair to the city taxpayers. I agree that it would be nice to allow to have this beautified better, to have a wider pedestrian walkway. I agree with that. But we shouldn't be paying over 3 times that the seller did. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to substitute the minority report for the majority report.
Okay. Do I have a second for Alderman Braham's motion? Alderman Deuter. So now, before council, we are considering a motion to substitute the minority 8.2 for the majority 8.1. Alderman Braham, additional comments?
None at this time.
Okay. Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I've seconded this motion, not because I support it, but just to further the discussion and allow it if there is to be any. And if I can, I'd like to make some comments that also reference the majority report. As
They
a
overlap,
comparison.
so.
Thank you. You know, I think it's safe to say that as representatives of the city and its taxpayers, in every case where the city is the purchaser, we would like a lower price. And in every transaction where the city is the seller, we would like a higher price. However, in each transaction, the city is only half of the equation. On the other side of each transaction is a seller who wants a higher price or a buyer who wants a lower price. The best agreements are ones in which neither side is pleased, but both sides can accept the end point. City staff went back and forth with the seller in this case, and while he was willing to entertain the discussions, he was not necessarily eager to let go of a portion of his property. He entered the discussion at the request of city staff, who recognized the unique opportunity for a strategic purchase. I believe there is majority, if not unanimous, support on council for the purchase of this land. The only disagreement is to the price. Although I accept the negotiated price and have seen the staff's calculations to justify it, I certainly wish it were lower, like always. I think with the majority report, we've arrived at a price that both sides can accept, and I think the minority report would not bring the seller to the table for this purchase that is, you know, again, I think it's in all of our desire to have this property. Just to respond to a few points that came up earlier, you know, yes, the damage to remainder amount, which was one of the 2 ways staff calculated the value of this property, is not a current price. As I understand and was informed by staff, the dollar amount that we used to calculate damage of remainder was based on an appraisal from 2000 or 2001. So it doesn't reflect today's market. If anything, it's significantly lower. So staff's calculation, I believe, if using today's number, would have arrived at a much higher price. Damage to remainder is one way to calculate a price, and in that case, the number that staff calculated was above the 240 that's been agreed upon. The other way to do it is to look at a loss of opportunity, kind of what the developer actually loses in terms of his buildable square feet for the development that he intended to put on this parcel. And in that case, it was a number that was significantly higher than the 240. So in both cases, you run either number, where we're arriving is lower than staff's calculations of what the value might be. And the other piece to respond, the easements were told by staff were known at the time of the negotiation. So that was considered in the back and forth that happened with city staff. So I would ask for your support for the majority report, a vote against the minority report, and I think we'll end up at a spot that both with the majority report, we end up at a price that might not please either side, but is something that we're willing to move forward on, and the seller is willing to move forward on. Thank you.
Alderman Levin.
Thank you. I would add to, well, first 3 points. The assessed equalized valuation by law is 1/3 of fair market value. So you can't compare apples to oranges and say that the purchase price was $342. If you multiply the 109 per square foot by 3, you're pretty darn close. So 3 times 109, you could do it any way you want, but that comes out closer to the 342. So you can't compare assessed equalized valuation with fair market value. Secondly is the seller purchased the building and the land. He didn't just purchase the land, and the property had significant value for the land without the building. It doesn't matter how the assessor values it. That's sort of an artificial valuation for taxing purposes. I think Alderman Deuter hit the key point, which is it's a negotiated price. And we went in with some calculations. We had a negotiation. Yes, it's a willing seller, willing at that price. To take the minority report will be to say, forget it, because I think that during the course of our negotiations, there was a slight discount given to, I wouldn't call it a discount, there was some leeway given in terms of the negotiation. There was a reduction in the price, but there's no doubt in my mind that it's been made clear to the city that if we were to go to the price proposed by the minority report, there wouldn't be any deal. We're done. So, willing buyer, willing seller, negotiation, that's the negotiated price. And based upon the purchase price that the seller paid for the property as a whole, it's right in line. I'll be supporting the majority report.
Okay. Alderman Mulliner.
I just want to be clear on, make sure that I have a full understanding on the easement that they're requesting for their windows. My understanding is that easement is only for the second and third floors and has no relationship to the first floor. Therefore, it will not be interfering with the walkway. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. And we're not talking about something that's interfering with the walkway itself, so it's not really taking away from that 4-foot walkway. So I, too, am supporting the majority report.
Okay. Additional comments? Any other people who have not had an opportunity yet? All right, Alderman Braham.
Thank you. The comments just made by Alderman Levin, I want to make sure it's clear in the minority report. The prices I was quoting, the $300 and whatever dollars it was, and that was what we are proposing for the purchase price. The $109 was calculated based off of the actual sale price. The $8 and $19 per square foot, I would agree with the comments made that yes, you would need to triple that, being the EAV times 3, which would be $24. So $24 still doesn't come anywhere close to the 342.86 cents per square foot. So purchase price, I agree with. We should pay what was purchased. I don't feel that we should be paying 3.5 times that amount. I don't care what, Alderman Deuter's comments made mention of the 2 different ways staff calculated damage to the remainder, and it was just 2 different ways to calculate damage to the remainder. Neither are applicable. It's not eminent domain, it's a willing seller. Damage to the remainder is not applicable. And I won't get into the details, but the damage to the remainder didn't also encompass the easement that we're giving back to the seller of this property. And yes, Alderman Muller's comments about the window easement, it is the second and third floor. But if we don't give that easement, they wouldn't be able to sell the full 4 feet. They would sell 2 to us, not 4 feet to us, because they would need that on their own property. I definitely believe it's the right thing to do to purchase the property, even though we've lived literally without a fire hydrant in the donut hole. I think it's right to make sure that we provide the best safety we can by having a fire hydrant back there. But I also don't think that the taxpayer should be paying 3.5 times approximately on what was paid for the property in its entirety. And I think I may have misspoke before in November of 2014.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote on this one. Just to be clear, for council's sake, we are voting on whether or not to substitute the report put forth by Alderman Bram. And then we would vote on whether approving that. So this is the vote on the substitution of the minority for the majority. Clear?
Clear.
So an aye vote is that you want to replace the, you support the minority report to replace the majority. Clerk Spencer.
Healy.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Conquest.
No.
Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
No.
Deuter.
No.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader.
No.
Dunn.
No.
Bram.
Yes.
Palumski.
No.
York.
No.
Toledo.
No.
1 aye, 13 nays, 0 absent.
1 aye, 13 nays, motion to substitute fails. On to the original motion, which is a support and approval of the majority report. Any additional comments as it relates to this, the majority report? Clerk Spencer, I ask that you call the vote.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
No.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays, 0 absent.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 8.1 is approved. On to agenda item 8.3. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you call the roll. I'm sorry. Read the recommendation.
Yeah. It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the temporary construction and permanent easement agreement between the property owner at 194 East Crescent and the city of Elmhurst be approved, and the city attorney be authorized to prepare the appropriate documents. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Marty Deuter, Vice Chairman, Michael J. Bram, and Patrick Wagner.
Okay, to put this before council, I will ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the part of the project for the Crescent Cambridge, the ultimately what is known as York Commons, to get the water from the Crescent Cambridge area into the park. And so we originally went to one homeowner to try and do an easement. It came to the point where it became cost prohibitive to work with that individual. City staff identified this individual at 194 East Crescent. They were open to this project, and so through our negotiations, basically what we'll be doing is we have to remove their deck and stairs to be able to get the pipe through. We're going to replace the deck and stairs and also do a small modification to help them with their own stormwater issues. And then as an exchange for that easement that will be permanently there was another lump sum of money of $18,000. So in total, for this project, it would be $37,000 to make this happen. It's an integral part of the project and was a much better project from a cost standpoint than the original individual that we started negotiating with. So that's that, unless somebody has a question.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Report is approved. Before we move on, I just want to state for people paying attention, or for people interested in this, this is the last piece of the puzzle for the York Commons project. Obviously, we've been working with the Park District to create stormwater storage there, but if we can't get the water there, there's no point in doing the project. So really appreciate this homeowner willing to work with us. It's not every day that someone puts a 48-inch pipe through right by the side of your house. So it is the last piece of the puzzle on this, and we'll get working on it immediately. On to agenda item 8.4. Trying to mess me up, Alderman Healy?
Yes.
On to agenda item 8.4. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council accept the 2015 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and related communication from SICIC LLP, signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Noel P. Toludo, and Mark P. Sabatino.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve. The report and recommendation is read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had Finance Director Troisine drop one of these off at our desk. We used to get these hard copies every year. This is the comprehensive annual financial report for the city of Elmhurst for the year ended 2015. These are now conveniently found online in a PDF document so you can see it, but there's a tremendous amount of, I should hold it like this so people can really see what it is. But there's a lot of work that goes into this document every year. So I have a couple things to comment on. First of all, and Peg isn't here, but Peg Orsanian, who's works with Tom, this is her last piece of work before she retires this fall, too. So she's been absolutely instrumental in working with the auditors to put this document together. And over her career here at the city has saved the taxpayers thousands and thousands of dollars by taking it upon herself to prepare all the information here so the auditors can review it, whereas typically the auditors will go in and prepare a lot of this information at an hourly rate. So I'd like to recognize her along with the other finance staff on a job well done. As a report indicates, and certainly wouldn't expect anything different, but we get an absolutely clean opinion by the auditors on the presentation of the financial statements that are in this report. Mr. Dan Berg, who's the partner in our account, was at our committee meeting a couple weeks ago to address the committee and go over the things that he typically does, including the other attachment on the board docs, which is a letter to the city council telling about the work. It's the auditor's communication to the city council. So it's all here for you to review and ask any questions, those types of things. One thing that struck me, and I think the rest of the committee too, was statements are prepared to meet the standards of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So GASB is the term in government, it's FASB in the private sector. But GASB has been, for a number of years now, working towards restatement of financial statements that present unfunded pension liability, unfunded liabilities, in our case primarily pension liabilities, in a different way. And as Mr. Berg went through the presentation to our committee, it dawned on me that this might be a really good presentation for the whole city council and for everybody who's in the audience to observe the changes that have occurred. So in just a moment, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow Mr. Berg to address the council. Before we do that, I'd just like to make a couple things perfectly clear. We've been reporting unfunded pension liabilities for years. And they're in the footnotes in the previous editions of the CAFR. This year they kind of jumped to the financial statements, to the business operation statements, and it creates a significant change in the city's net position from a financial point of view. So I thought it was worthwhile that the city council hear that from the auditor, because he can do a lot better explanation of it than I can, and be able to answer any questions. What results from this is we'll have a number, and he'll talk about the number in just a few moments. But this committee is, we've already met twice on it, and we'll be meeting again before, is this is something that comes before us every year. How much do we need to fund the pensions? And so this is something that the committee's working on. That's not really the point of tonight's presentation. The point of tonight's presentation is just to have everybody kind of wrap their minds around, you know, the change required by GASB in the presentation. So, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow our audit partner, Dan Berg, to address the council and review a presentation that he did with the Finance Committee a couple weeks ago to further explain the changes in the financial statements.
Okay, so a motion to allow Mr. Berg to address council. Motion and a second by Alderman Dunn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so does Mr. Berg have a presentation for us, or is he just going to talk to us?
No, he has a presentation. It's about a 5-minute presentation real
Okay,
quick,
great.
just to kind of show some of the numbers and some of the highlights.
Welcome, Mr. Berg. Okay, I see Mr. Trezine is pulling up, not that one.
Berg, B-E-R-G.
Berg, B-E-R-G, oh, Berg.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Alderman. Thank you all for having me. Please.
You speak into the microphone, please.
Please feel free to interrupt and ask any questions you might like. I'd like to kind of go through this a little bit quickly, but we wanted you to see the impact that Government Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 68 had. As Alderman said, we've always reported your pension liabilities in both the notes to the financial statements and the required supplementary information. So Moody's, Standard & Poor's, everybody that's interested in buying the city bonds or creating a rating for the city has known about these numbers for a number of years, over 20 years. So if you'll page down a little, I thought I'd start out with how we presented them in the past. GASB statements number 27 and 25 required us to report, if you think of a pension as a mortgage, we were always reporting whether we were ahead or behind on paying the mortgage. The city has been aggressive in contributing to its police and fire pension funds in particular, and over time has accumulated a net pension asset as of 2014 of $772,000 for the police and $655,000 for the fire. So that's the accumulative increase in contribution over and above what the actuary required or suggested. So down below that is the actual unfunded actuarial accrued liability, just to show you that we have been reporting that. And it shows that we have well over $50 million in unfunded actuarial accrued liability as of 2014. So if we could page to the next page. In 2015, we were required to put that on the books, if you will, of the statement of net position. So this isn't affecting any fund. This isn't affecting the pension funds or the general fund, but it is affecting the government-wide financial statements. We're required to write off the net pension obligation asset of $700,000 and $655,000, and then put on those very liabilities we just saw on the preceding page. The total impact on the governmental activities was nearly $53 million. The impact to the business type activities, primarily the municipal utility fund, was $2.7 million, and then the library had to pay their fair share, or get reflected in their fair share of IMRF of $1.2 million. The way that is shown in your financial statements is on page 10 of the financial statements themselves, and here we summarize down a little bit farther. In 2015, the grand total of the obligation, the net pension liability, jumped up to $63.8 million. Mostly that's due to the poor market value year we experienced at 12/31/2015. Many of our 401ks became 301ks at that point, or attempt at accounting humor. But the because of that dramatic change in the market value, we were allowed to take the assumed, the assumption that we would make 7% or 6.75% on our investments. And because we didn't, we're going to spread that out over the next 5 years. So that's what the 11.9 million primarily is. The inability to meet our assumptions, we amortize that over time. So the net effect of this year's impact is 51 million. So we had 52 million last year, 51 million this year. We posted that to your statement of net position. So we can go up and, I'm sorry, down, pardon me. So here's your statement of net position as of 2014. We see that we had $31 million due in more than 1 year in liabilities, 20 million for the business type activities. If we go all the way to the bottom of that page is the equity. We had $145 million of equity in the governmental and 67 million and a half in the business type activities. We also had positive on the unrestricted line item there of 22 million and 7.5 million for the business type activities. That's where the impact hits. So in 2015, we're going to show those net pension liabilities in the due for more than 1 year. We just jumped up to 96 million. And we jumped up to 40 million there mostly because we issued $12 million worth of GO bonds in the Municipal Utility Fund and $4.7 million of IEPA loans. So they really only had about a $4 million impact this year from IMRF. That changes our net position down to $90 million for the governmental activities and $62.3 million for the business type activities, turning our unrestricted net position to a negative number for the first time ever for the city. And the reason I'm here tonight is we thought that dramatic impact needed to be explained. Everybody's going through the same pain in their financial statements. Again, this number, these unfunded actuarial accrued liabilities in the past, net pension liabilities, what we're calling them now, have always been in your financial statements. Everybody's always known about them, that it's interested in them. We're just showing them in a different way in accordance with GASB. So I have a great number of clients that are showing negative unrestricted net position in their governmental activities. I have a lot of clients that are showing a grand total of a negative net position, so that where you have 90 million, they would have a negative dollar value. I did want to point out on the very next slide simply that to prove to you that it didn't have an impact on your general fund itself, down at the bottom is your fund balances where we show $31.8 million of general fund balance, of which 12.6 million is unrestricted and available for governmental purposes. We show an additional 8.7 million there that's assigned for your capital improvements. And then the 9 million is to cover the budget shortfall for this coming year, budgetary only. I also included in this packet, which Tom Trezine can make available to all of you, the operating statements of the governmental funds, the business type activities, and the fiduciary pension funds, if you're interested. Since you've had the report for a month or so, I thought I would end it here and open it up to any questions that you might have in this regard. I hope that explains why we have a little more red ink than we've ever had before.
Okay, any questions? Alderman York, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I have lots of questions. But first of all I'd like to say is, thanks to Dan. For those of you who may have taken an accounting class in university at one time or another, that's kind of what an 8 o'clock class was like, what you just heard him talk about. But I think the point here is that while this is a significant change in the presentation of the financial position of the city, this is nothing that we didn't know. It's simply a matter of presentation. And as Mr. Berg had said, there are many municipalities and other governments out there that have a negative net worth, if you will. And Elmhurst is very strong. We've done a really good job of funding our pensions, and we're still a very solid community from a financial perspective. If you'll recall, when we did the latest bond issuance and we looked at the reports together, I indicated at that time, highlighted that the rating agencies had kind of taken some different verbiage to our unfunded pension liabilities, that kind of recognized in a more clear and concise manner than they ever had before. So this is something that, you can't pick up the Tribune or any paper without reading about these types of things anywhere. And what we have here is certainly minute and manageable compared with other governmental agencies. So thank you for the presentation. As I mentioned, the committee is going to be working hard on what are the ramifications, how do we move forward with funding pensions. As Mr. Berg mentioned, we've got about $12 million of non-equity growth that we need to deal with over the next 5 years. So we're going to be dealing with that in our committee when we make a recommendation for what the pension, what we should be levying for pensions as part of our budget process. So anyway, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Alderman Levin.
Thank you. A very good report. Alderman York, because you brought it up, I just thought it might be worth mentioning that don't we already have a plan in place for reducing pension liabilities that we've been looking at for the last years? Is that not true?
Let me add to that. Just maybe you want to give a snapshot to the council where we are on our funding. And I know that you're, to Alderman Levin's point, we have put a plan in place to aggressively get to 100%. Not only would I ask you to mention where we are in our funding, how do we compare to other municipalities in the state?
Okay, so we're approximately 70% funded between the police and the fire. These are approximate numbers. I don't have them right in front of me unless you can tell me exactly what page to go to here. And it might be in this presentation down at page.
You get the gist, Alderman York.
We have been on a path to have our pensions fully funded at 100% by the year 2033. And that's what we're kind of working with in our committee right now. We're not sure that we're going to be able, well, we can maintain it. We're just going to have to balance meeting that goal with what the tax levy is going to be. And also another interesting thing is we found ourselves in 2015 with having a very low capital return on our capital assets. Equity markets weren't good. If in 2031 or 2032, when we were a year away from being 100% funded and all of a sudden we came up $12 or $15 million short, are we going to levy $12 or $15 million over the course of the next 2 years to get ourselves back to even? So these are some of the kind of the hypothetical questions that we have to answer and be prepared to address as we make a recommendation for a tax levy on the pensions. So it's kind of an ongoing piece of work in our committee, and I suspect we'll come up with the usual really good answer today, but as we all know, things change in the future, and there's liable to be some pros and cons. We may end up with some years where equity markets do fantastic, and we'll actually be able to take a little chunk off of what we have to pay forward in the future. So it's just one of those things that requires constant attention.
And where are we in comparison with others?
You're up well above the 50th percentile. Your pension funding actuarially dropped from about 70% in 2014 to about a little under 65% in 2015, literally because of the markets. But that puts you in the upper third of the state by far. You're
okay. That answers my question.
And as I said, you've been aggressively funding your pensions all along. Your assumptions are somewhat lower and more aggressive than many of our clients, than most of our clients.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I will thank Mr. Berg for his time and his input. And we will go back to the agenda item at hand, which is technically 8.4. Any other comments or questions as it relates to this report? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you call the vote.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 8.4 is approved. On to 8.5. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
The DPZ committee recommends that the city council approve the North York Street Corridor Streetscape Plan with the changes recommended at the August 8, 2016 Development Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for the city council approval. Signed, Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, Vice Chairman. Unsigned, Michael Honquist.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. Alderman Levin.
Thank you. If you'll probably recall that we have been going through various planning exercises to update our plans. In June of 2015, we adopted our North York Corridor Plan. To move on as part of that, I believe it was about November of 2015, we hired a consultant to put together the streetscape plan that was put together and well received through the hearings, the public hearings. We looked at it in July 11th and August 8th, and we are bringing it forward for approval by the full city council. What I'd like to do is ask for leave for Daniel Dalziel, who is with, is it 3DD? Is that how we? To comment on it and make a short presentation to the council about what we've got in our streetscape plan.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules to allow, is it Mr. Dalziel? Is that how you pronounce your last name? Yes, sir. To allow Mr. Dalziel to address the council. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Mr. Dalziel.
All right, good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and public. My name's Dan Dalziel. I'm with 3D Design Studio. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here to report on the North York Street Corridor Master Plan. Briefly, we were charged with coming up with a plan that would incite and bring businesses in, create a more pedestrian and vehicular-friendly corridor for the York Street, and incur businesses. So what we did was we did a detailed analysis of the corridor. We photographed the entire place, developed some preliminary alternatives, and met with staff, went over all the different ideas, then attended the public input meeting on April 12th, where we had 2 different meetings, had over 60 people come, both business owners and residents, had great reception, great input. We took their comments, refined the master plan designs, and came up with detailed cost estimates, met with staff again, developed a phasing plan with priorities, and then attended the committee meetings that Alderman Levin mentioned with the estimates of costs, made the final revisions, and then we are here tonight to show you the master plan. So with that, what I'm going to do is start at the south end here at North, and what I'm going to show you real quickly is some things that repeat throughout the entire corridor for continuity. In this case, we're recommending the universal continental crosswalks, which are very, from a vehicular standpoint, alert the driver to upcoming pedestrian crossings, very beneficial for a safety standpoint. The dark green lines you see there, we also are recommending areas along the streetscape for improved parking lot screening and landscape opportunities as shown by these green lines. This arrow now is pointing to the median. The medians up and down the entire corridor. We're using a street print or a pattern imprinted pavement that would delineate where the through lanes are. It allows for the turning movements, but makes the road appear narrower and safer. And organizes the traffic better. Some of the things that we looked at in the study is the Liberty Village. Right now, their access is this point. We recommended moving these parking spaces over, excuse me for you guys, and aligning the intersection up with Fremont to make a safer movement for the residents of Liberty Plaza. In the streetscape, as you know, you've got a great number of cars that enter the city, both eastbound and westbound from I-90. So we wanted to create a monumental gateway announcement entry for each of these exit ramps. So for this one, we said, let's use some of the elements that you have already in the city, these gateway pylons, and then span it with the Welcome to Elmhurst in a large decorative planter that would be irrigated and watered and create a stunning arrival from the eastbound arrivers. Now then, moving north from Lake Street towards the I-290 overpass, you're already aware that there's an existing median there. We have a recommendation for that you would put a raised brick planters with the splash strip of the pattern imprinted material, as well as really dressing up the bridge with thin-set brick spandrels that cross the entire thing. And then these terraced landscape planters with these rock boulders make much easier to maintain, very impressive and from a landscape aesthetic standpoint. We also are introducing a multi-use trail that would travel under the bridge and revise that so that it would be well lit on both sides. Let me show you a engineering drawing that shows a section there so that you would have both the 10-foot multi-use bike trail as well as the sidewalk on the other side. And again, one of the key elements there was finishing the underside of the bridge and increasing the lighting for the feel of safety during the evenings. Just north of that, we show the continuation of the bike path along the new detention reservoir there. You have the existing median that we would treat the same way with the raised brick planters. And then a couple areas we've had recommendations for screening of certain properties. So we had an idea of very decorative, high durability, easy to maintain composite fencing material. So this is just, there's many options out there. These were a couple that we had recommended. Now then, for the westbound coming off of I-290, you would come and arrive looking at this. We oversized your existing monumental gateway pylons. The southern side would have directional signage on it, whereas the northern side would pick up some of the existing graphics that you already use throughout the city. So this announces again to the arriving motorists that welcome to Elmhurst. This was mentioned earlier. This is this shopping center right here across from Mariano's. Their existing drive is right here. We're recommending for safety to move that to align directly with Mariano's entry exit. What that does for you is it makes it safer for the turning movements. The trees that were mentioned in here, typically in a streetscape, we're using ascending upright branching trees, so there really wouldn't be any view disruption for the motorists, but that can be reviewed later. The benefit of this moving down is that in this center section here, you get a nice long stretch for another brick median planter to again enhance the York Street corridor. And here's how that would fit in between there. One of the changes mentioned there was Doty Liquor. I'm sorry I went quickly past that, but full access was retained for Doty. The earlier plan showed a right in, right out there. So again, this is just showing that we have this continuous median pavement, pattern imprinted, so you'll have continuity going up and down the streetscape. You saw that we had recommended the multi-use path coming on the west side of York. Now we get to the ComEd right-of-way here, and we're showing extending that west into the industrial area and east along the right-of-way to the residences, to the subdivisions. And the way you cross here would be an island in the center, a refuge area. So you're only crossing 2 lanes ever. You have a protective refuge waiting area so that you can then make the next 2 lanes. From this part forward or north, we made a lot of recommendations on, you have so many driveway curb cuts. We think not only from an aesthetic standpoint, from a safety standpoint, consolidating as many of those as possible is for the benefit of the vehicular motorists on York Avenue as well as the city. I've got several here. This is one that there's a drive here, there's a drive here, there's a drive here. In this instance, this is a recommendation only at this point because it's a master plan, was that there's shared use between KFC and this business owner, and that everybody comes in and out here, and they share access on the property there. That's one example. Let's see, another example, in the earlier report, we were recommending a different configuration at McDonald's. We've since realigned that back to the way it is today. This slide shows there's driveway, 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 driveway. We think that consolidating these driveways, you can then get a longer strip, better access, better control for all the turning movements, and again, capture some more streetscape, landscape to soften and buffer the parking areas. Finally, at the north end of York, for southbound, welcome to Elmhurst again. From Grand, we recommended, again, a giant pylon with the graphics that you have before, the raised planter, the pattern imprinted median, and all as part of the experience from one end to the other of the entire North York Street corridor. So we developed the phasing recommendation. Earlier this year, we assisted the city with the development of a ITEP grant application, which if we're successful, that would give you about 80% of the entire cost to do the I-290 interchange development that we proposed. So we obviously said that should be the first priority, especially if we're awarded the money. We don't know when we'll hear on that, but we're waiting on that. Second, it made sense to go north, and this was on a funds available block by block basis. So you'll see in the cost estimate that you have, we did very detailed cost estimating and broke it into block by block so that you could see how far you could go in any one year. And again, it's dependent solely on when funds are available. We thought the north corridor was the next logical phase, followed by the south zone. So again, affordable, block by block. And then you have more detail in your packets, but this was the overall estimate of cost by zone. You've got the north zone, the I-290 zone, and the south zone. So with that, I would like to say thank you and ask if there's any questions I can answer.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Dalziel? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, sir.
Dalziel. Got it.
Before I make
11?
comments, I see Alderman Palumski had some questions, so I'll defer.
Thank you.
Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the detail that's in there and addressing some of the concerns of the business owners. I did notice around the I-290 interchange, I saw the picture and the reports has some ideas for retaining walls. I think that the area near 290, with the grassy area, is mostly visible from York, and currently there's a chain link fence there. Was there any discussion about different type of open-air fence around that area?
You're talking about the south of I-290 or north of?
The north and south, essentially where there's grassy area, and from York, there's like a gray metal.
Right, on the northwest,
Okay, so
northeast corner
northwest,
of
yes, so they're both the
I-290,
west
we
side.
recommended that fencing treatment that was just up there.
So all of that, even from the road, even from York Road, not just from 290?
No, that would be along York
Okay.
Road. Here, let me show you. That would be up here on the plan, if I go back one, right there.
Okay.
Along this is, a little rougher looking business there that we thought would benefit you by having something like this along that stretch. Another idea that was discussed was something similar to this along where the semi-truck parking is, with the opportunity to put some landscape in front of a material like that.
Okay, to the west of that then, where you see what will be, well, right now it's grassy prairie plants. Around that there's a fence there, sort of falling down.
Right on this side? Oops, sorry,
What you're
on this
pointing
side? Sorry.
Oh,
I'll
okay, over
get you
there.
here. On this-
Yes, so I
Yeah,
know
no,
I know there's landscaping in the bike path, but is there gonna be a separate fence there?
Right, that would probably be a much more open fence.
Okay.
That's partly up to the design of the new detention facility.
Okay,
But yeah, we would hope to retain the view into that.
okay. Thank you.
Alderman Bram?
Thank you. You tricked me by looking the other way and called my name. So I want to say thank you to staff and to you as well, because I know this has been a long process, as well as to the committee. A lot of discussion. I think you made mention of it. I do know that some of these proposals or this draft, this plan is just that, because we need to dive further into engineering. If the islands in some of those locations are doable due to line-of-sight issues or something along those lines. I am looking forward to hopefully getting that ITEP grant and moving forward with around the expressway, because a lot of the feedback that I've always received is that going under the, and I'm quoting here, going under the expressway is, quote, scary. So to beautify it, lighten it up, to cut back the downslope from the foundation there, to increase the size of the pathway would be a huge improvement, and connect what I guess we're calling the expressway corridor and the north and south corridor. So I'm looking forward to that. I think there's some other questions, as Alderman Palomsky pointed out, on some of the nuts and bolts of this draft, but I'm fully in support of it and looking forward to seeing some beautification.
Great, thank you much.
Any other questions? Alderman Dunn?
A question, all these enhancements, and this is great. I am excited by the look of this up and down York Street. It's going to be a tremendous improvement. Are all these improvements on city right-of-way? Are any of those on private property, perhaps some of the businesses? And how would you manage that if you're proposing some enhancements on private property?
Right now, the only private property improvements would be like the KFC sharing across their parking lot. That's one that would be on private property. That would be working with the business owners to see the benefit to each business to have that kind of cooperative new development. The other was the facility right across the street from the fire department. That's actually moving a little bit of their parking back and forth, as well as the strip center right across from Mariano's. It's moving their drive opening, but it also impacts a little bit of their parking lot. So we'd be moving some curb and gutter on their property and a parking island, but you would be taking it from one spot and putting it on another. It's not like they would be losing any parking. So our recommendation in the scope of the big picture of this project would be that the city would make those small improvements.
The second question, in your experience, what is a feasible time frame to implement these 3 phases?
That comes down to, is the money available to do it all? We have done it so that you could do piece by piece by piece. We did, I don't know how many people have ever been in Libertyville, the downtown, but we did all 8 blocks of that. That was a TIF district, and we did it over 5 years, partly because that's the way they deemed they wanted the disruption to be minimized. So we did it on a block face by block face. You could do it faster than that if 6 million were available.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. This looks wonderful, and I fully support this and look forward to seeing some of this move forward as budget becomes available. I was a little bit surprised to see you were on it a little earlier on the section between ComEd Row to past KFC, the crosswalk that I believe is not at a stoplight. So that, can you just talk to me about the safety of that? I did see you point out that kind of the
This right
pedestrian
here?
refuge, yeah. But that is it is a very busy and fast-moving street. Is that generally accepted to be crossing, or is that at a light and I'm just mistaken?
Well, no, that's not a light, and we went back and forth with whether to do it on the south side. Here, let me back up a little. See, if you go to the south side here, there's really no good spot to take that across. You know, all the way back over here, then you're on this side. It just felt like that you have the continuity of the path itself. If you kept going, this was directly in line with the right-of-way, with the ComEd right-of-way, where a bicyclist or kids that live in the neighborhood or users that are going to Mariano's or LA Fitness or any other of the businesses down there, that would be the ideal spot to cross. And by having this island refuge, at least we minimize the effort of getting across the street. Because as you know, York tends to pulse differently. It's not everybody going the same time in both directions all the time, except rush hour, but.
Yeah.
So that way you could get out two lanes and make it and wait till an opening comes.
Thank you.
Alderman Levin.
Thank you. Just a couple additional comments. As you'll see in there was a question by Ms. Sullivan about the trees, and I could look at the fencing and say it's not particularly what I would want to see there, or maybe some would or wouldn't, but the idea is to talk about the concepts, putting the vegetation in, putting the blocking in there of the parking lots. So this is a plan. It has broad concepts and some pretty darn good ideas, I think. Some of the overall concepts are, as Alderman Brand pointed out, is connecting the north and the south, so there's not a feeling like everything that's north of the 290 overpass is somehow hard to get to. And that was, I think, something the committee spent a lot of time on, how to open that up, brighten it up. There's a concept of eliminating, not only for safety reasons for the cars, the number of curb cuts for driveways, but to get a feeling that if you're walking down or riding your bike down York Road, if that's legal, I don't know, on the sidewalk, that you are not always going to be having to look out for cars quite as frequently. A couple things, before and after pictures, which we saw, I don't know if they're always not what we saw here, but I noted one of them was we took the power lines out, which has a huge cost, but when you look down this road and it looks so beautiful, I wish we had a current picture to show you what it looks like with the power lines, because it's a much better looking street without them. It's such a big difference that I just wish we had that picture.
Yeah,
So-
I'm sorry I didn't have that in there.
That's right, so just picture power lines, which are there. They run on the west side
The
of the street.
right-hand side, the west side.
Yeah, and they're like phone kind of lines or that run down there. So that's something that, I don't know, is that part of the cost we had in there?
No, that's not in the
Yeah,
cost.
and that's a big cost. So as I say, it's a plan. The question was asked, how do you do it? It's a matter of us looking at budgeting priorities. But in terms of having a path to go forward to make it look like this, which is, and I am familiar with Libertyville, it's a very beautiful street you have there. So the committee's pleased with it, and we've made some adjustments, and we recommend it to the council. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Mr. Dalziel, we really appreciate your time and the presentation.
Thank you so
And,
much, very much.
Thank you. Just to give folks a perspective, I mean, this was really born out of TIF 4, this whole process. And believe it or not, TIF 4 is coming up on, actually this month. It's 4 years. So this urban planning and urban development stuff just takes time. I mean, I'm glad we're here. It's great to see that kind of stuff. It shows that we take it serious. But this is long-term planning. This is stuff that not only takes 15 to 20 years to implement, but it's stuff that'll be around 20 to 30 to 100 years. So it's good that we're doing the planning now, but it just takes time. So let's see, that is agenda item, pardon me, 8.5. Mr. Levin, anything you want to add?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, motion before council is to approve the report 8.5, agenda item 8.5. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Ely.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Boyder.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 8.5 is approved. On to agenda item 8.6. It's a report out of DP&Z. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, no, let me start over. Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for a 5-lot subdivision described as follows: residential 255 North Addison, South Retail 242 through 254 North York, North Retail 260 through 272 North York, Public Parking Garage, 256 North York, Public Plaza, 258 North York. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for the city council approval. Signed by Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, Vice Chairman, Michael Honquist.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. Alderman Levin.
Thank you. So this is really not as confusing as it might seem. Basically, this is maybe the last piece of Hahn Street. And it took a lot of surveyor work and getting the legal descriptions right. But what you saw in your report was, you see different levels from below ground, ground level, and each one going up. And essentially what we're doing, and this color coding helps make it clear, is you'll see that at each level above, or actually at each level, there's a component that is being zoned residential that will be owned by the developer, blue in this case. There are certain, one component that's zoned separately, which is the city-owned parking garage, which is the pink one, which these are all separate legal descriptions, so that's essentially what the exercise is. There are a couple of additional pieces, or actually one at least, that is the, what do we call that, the plaza, thank you, the open space, so that is a separate legal description. There's also they look like they're the same color, but as was described, each of the two retail parcels are zoned separately. I assume that the developer will want to have each one pay their own taxes or divide a little bit easier. And there's also a right-of-way for sidewalks that's shown on here. So it's fairly technical, but the import is that I've been assured that our technical staff and legal staff have gone through it and that the legal descriptions are proper, and this is the next step to go forward. Once we get this recorded, actually, then the parking garage will be sent over, will be delivered to the city, which I think would feel safe in saying is going to be before the end of September and maybe a week before that. So we're finally getting into the last phases, and I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, sorry. Alderman Bram.
And it's tied to this, but I believe the subdivision or impact fee ordinance would be applicable in this case. It might not be part of this report, but upon creating new housing stock and possibly having impacts to the other government bodies especially, wouldn't we have either in this report or in another referral, something to discuss the impact fees, subdivision fees, or is that automatically billed from the city side?
I think it already happened with the original, what? Yeah, I think it might have happened with the RDA. This is a further subdivision, which I don't know if that requires it. I understand what you're asking, but I think the...
So it happened before we actually did the subdivision?
Yeah. I mean, we're subdivided this property now, at this point, to draw delineation between our public garage and their apartment building, but I believe that the impact fees were when the project, was it a PUD?
No, I think straight zoning, but it was the RDA.
Legally, when we did the RDA, I believe it was in there. So we're just further subdividing or clarifying now, but the impact fees that you're referring to were already established back then.
Okay, if I can just make the request, if city staff can follow up with me offline, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, any other comments or questions? Clerk Spencer.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Boyder.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Agenda item 8.6 is approved. On to agenda item 8.7. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
Therefore, it is the recommendation of the Development Planning and Zoning Committee that the City Council approve the required ordinances to remove certain parcels from TIF 2 and establish the Church Road, Lake Street Tax Increment Finance District TIF 5. Signed by Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, Vice Chairman, Michael Honquist.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. Alderman Levin.
Thank you. This is the last piece of the puzzle, I would say, or just about, until we actually get to the ordinances to get our new TIF established. So we started some time back with the plan, and we had our public hearings, we adopted the appropriate resolutions, we had the joint review board met, we had the public hearing last month. And so these are, and we're sort of doing this in a way to economize, to save the council a little bit of time. So we're packaging them in one report as opposed to having 4 separate reports. But essentially there are 4 ordinances being proposed. One of them is to release from TIF 2 certain property that is going to go into the new TIF 5. So that will be one of the ordinances. The next one is an ordinance that will approve the TIF development plan and project that we've presented and discussed several times before. The next ordinance establishes the TIF area, the actual boundaries of the TIF, including the park. And the last one is the one that establishes the TIF financing requirements for the new TIF. And these are all described by statute. They're the legal requirements to put it into effect. This report directs the city attorneys to actually prepare the ordinances and bring them back for adoption by the full city council, at which point we're live with TIF 5.
Okay. Comments or questions? Alderman Brand?
Yes, this topic was discussed earlier today in committee. And I guess my first question would be, is there a timeline or urgency issue when we have to discuss it in committee and have it on the council agenda that same evening? And then just the other statement, I've voiced concerns before, the size of this TIF, and a resident discussed earlier this evening about connecting it to TIF 4. I do have those reservations, but I am in support of it overall.
Okay. Alderman Levin, do you care to comment on the
I don't know what the connection, I didn't catch that on the connection to TIF 4, but I think, I'm not sure that this comes up from time to time. I think that as a council, and certainly we as a committee look at things, if there was something that was controversial and needed public vetting, or there was something that hadn't been before the council many times, we might feel it was more appropriate to hold it over. We're not adopting the ordinances tonight. We did have a committee meeting, so it's gone from committee, it's gone to council, so I don't see anything wrong with doing it that way. We're trying to get the TIF in place, and I don't know if it's urgency, but it's expediency.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I ask Clerk Spencer to call a vote.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Heimquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mullenher.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
DeLudo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent.
14 ayes, 0 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 8.7 is approved. On to reports and recommendations. Mayor Morley, that's me. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. And it is 9:52 this evening. Real quick, we've got coming up Rock the Block. That's our downtown block party put on by City Center. That's this weekend. Kind of signals the end of summer, which is kind of sad. But Rock the Block, for lack of a better term, rocks. I encourage everyone to come out and participate. Starts at 4 o'clock on Friday, runs till the evening, and then on Saturday it starts at 11 a.m. Live concerts, lots of great stuff. I promise if you show up, you won't be disappointed. Sunday, 9/11, there is a remembrance ceremony. There's a link on the website. Believe it or not, it's been 15 years since the 9/11 tragedy. And we will be holding a remembrance ceremony at the 9/11 Memorial, which is on Spring Road, right next to the Prairie Path. All are invited, and it starts at 8 a.m. We also have, we've done this every year, Elmhurst Real Estate, Commercial Real Estate Forum. This year it's scheduled for the 15th of September, in which we get a lot of brokers and interested folks together. City facilitates that. That is at Pints this year at 2:30 in the afternoon. And finally, and not to be forgotten, this coming weekend, Saturday, September 10th, is the Military Ball, the Elmhurst American Legion Post 187 Military Ball. It's been a conversation of, a topic of a lot of conversation up here on the dais. It is here, it's September 10th. Runs from 6 to 10:30. and you can contact the Legion for tickets or email them. There is a link on the exploreelmhurst.com website where you can get the information and phone numbers should you wish to attend. And that is it for me for my report. City Manager Grabowski.
One item, Alderman Dunn and I will be attending the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission meeting this Friday, where we expect them to vote on our membership. We'll report back to the council after that.
Okay, any other reports? Seeing none, we'll move on. Under agenda item 10, resolutions. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the resolution.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a notice of award for the Harrison Street Stormwater Improvement Project.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a continuation on the earlier report to get this part of the project moving for the Harrison Street stormwater improvement.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions as it relates to this? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
No.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays, no absent.
13 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries. Agenda item 10.1 is approved. On to other business. Any other business? Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, reporting another accident at a Prairie Path in York this past weekend. I don't have all the details, but another child was hit. Don't know that it required medical transport. It doesn't sound like it was that serious, but that is now 3 in approximately 3 weeks.
Okay. Any other business? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Dunn, second by Alderman Honquist. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.